I'll give you a short introduction to AGRIS. I guess that most of you already know AGRIS and know the processes behind, since many of you I recognize as data providers, but there might be also some people who are interested in becoming data providers. So I will give you a very short introduction on how it all works. Agriculture in the world, and to make information on agriculture globally available. And in order to reach this objective, there was an initiative already in 1974 of around 180 member countries of the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. And they have started the AGRIS initiatives that stands for International Information System for Agricultural Science and Technology. And the main objectives are improving access and exchange of information on agricultural research, and with that serving the information needs of developed and developing countries. Today we are already a network, AGRIS is there since quite a long time, a network of 450 data providers. Among them, research centers, academic institutions, international and national organizations, governmental ministries and institutions, and quite a heterogeneous group of data providers. AGRIS is also a web portal that you probably already know that gives free access to more than 1 million bibliographic records, and also to more than 1,500 data sets. That is actually a new functionality that has started this year. The web portal AGRIS can be used by everybody without registration or payment. Everybody can go to AGRIS and look for the bibliographic records that are there. But AGRIS is also a data set of multilingual bibliographic resources on agricultural research. And it includes the main topics around agriculture and nutrition, also forestry, fisheries, animal science, climate change, and natural resources, and other related topics. So what do we have as types of content in AGRIS? Our data providers have submitted bibliographic metadata of course, data sets. This is new. Then we have many journal articles. We have metadata about book chapters, monographs, gray literature. This is also what we are welcoming. That includes, for example, unpublished science, technical reports, theses, dissertations, conference papers. And this is one of the advantages of this portal, because we think that gray literature plays an important role in agricultural research, and AGRIS is one of the platforms that gives visibility also to these kinds of contents. Then there are also other content types, and there is basically anything related to the agricultural domain. I have talked already about the main topic. So AGRIS is basically about everything that has to do with agriculture, food, and nutrition. That are, of course, the main topics of the Food and Agriculture Organization, and everything that is related, like, for example, food security, farming, seeds, climate, genetic resources, biodiversity, but also rural poverty, food industry, and so on. Actually, everything that is related, or any resources that are related to these topics, can be submitted to AGRIS, and there are only few topics that are really not eligible at all. For example, I've seen topics about linguistics, and there it is very difficult to relate to agriculture, but everything else that is related to these topics is also eligible to be submitted to AGRIS. Since this webinar is addressed to data providers and potential data providers, very short, I would like to give you an overview about the benefits for data providers. But I hope that most of you know these already. So, of course, AGRIS provides an increased visibility of your resources, and I will later on explain a bit how. Then AGRIS is internationally known and an international brand. And contributing to that, you can also contribute to international science because it is widely used among the international research community in agriculture. And of course, our audience is international. So yeah, what gives the resources of the data providers a huge visibility is, first of all, the users that enter and use AGRIS directly, but also the fact that AGRIS records are fully indexed by Google Scholar. So whenever somebody searches Google Scholar and searches for agricultural keywords, most probably he will also find AGRIS resources. And then 85% of AGRIS records are indexed by the AgriVoc multilingual thesaurus that is, of course, covering all FAO areas of interest. And that is also a widely used thesaurus in the agricultural domain. Coming to the usage of AGRIS, the most important fact in the beginning, AGRIS is accessed by up to 600,000 users each month. So indeed, it is used a lot, and this is also why we always underline the fact that AGRIS gives visibility to the resources of our data providers. Most of our users are librarians, catalogers, researchers, professors, students, graduate students, but also journal publishers, conference organizers, and other people working in the agricultural domain. So, how to become a data provider? The first thing is to check eligibility. What does that mean? It means that we only accept as data providers international repositories, journal publishers, and aggregators, and we do not accept individual author contributions. This is an important point. And of course, the resources or the metadata about the resources that are submitted to AGRIS must relate to the AGRIS topics that I have listed before. Anybody who is interested to register as a data provider or to check whether the eligibility requirements are fulfilled or not can contact agris@fao.org and we will address that. Once registered, the second step is already to create and submit your metadata, and here is where the problems occur from time to time. So the question, one of the most asked questions is, what metadata do you need? Of course, and for this we have published on the AIMS website among the instructions for new data providers, the minimum requirements for AGRIS metadata that are derived from the meaningful bibliographic metadata, in short M2B. And so what you can see there is a table with properties, and then these properties are actually all recommended to add to your metadata or to add to your XML file. But in this table, you can also see which properties are mandatory or highly recommended. And mandatory properties are marked with 2 red pluses. Of course, the title, the creator, the date, and the language are mandatory. And then there are certain highly recommended properties that I will not go through all of them now, but I can go through some. For example, keywords are extremely important, as well as subject terms. Then the abstract, of course, but it also depends on the type of resource. If, for example, we receive metadata about journal articles, which is the case mostly, then we would require an abstract, because this is very important for our users. But if we receive metadata about proceedings, for example, the abstract is not needed necessarily. So it always depends on the resource, and that is also why this is a recommendation. And the needed properties might differ from content to content type. Yeah, so another property that we highly recommend is the URI to the resource. You might know that more and more students and researchers are very dependent on accessing resources online, and if possible, it is very much preferred if they can, with one click, get to the resource. So if the resource is open and openly accessible, it is very much recommended that the URI is also integrated into the metadata. Yeah, then if once you have collected the properties on the metadata that you would like to submit, you should prepare an XML file in a certain metadata format, in one of the common metadata formats, like, for example, Crossref, EndNote, Mods, Mendeley, whatever common metadata format you can create. And the question is very often, how are these formats created? What I can say is that some of the data providers try to create them with Word. This is usually not working. So what we are recommending is to use the export function of your reference management software. And there are certain and many reference management software tools that are available for free, or maybe you also have already one, you're working already with one. And just check the export function, and if it has one of the common metadata formats, XML metadata formats. And I think that with this, I would already like to hand over to Marina, who will tell you more about the reference management software tools that are available, and then she will continue with a demonstration of Mendeley. Thank you.
Thank you, Karna, and hello everybody. I will talk about reference management software and how we can use them to create XML metadata formats for AGRIS system. Reference management software is software for students and authors to use for recording and utilizing bibliographic citations or references, as well as managing project references either as a company or an individual. There are several free reference managers that can be used for creating XML metadata for AGRIS, such as Mendeley, Zotero, EndNote, EasyBib, and so on. In my institution, the Matica Srpska Library, Mendeley has been used for the last 8 years in that purpose. Mendeley is a desktop and web program for managing and sharing research papers, discovering research data, and collaborating online. Mendeley is free software, which is available across a number of different platforms. It means that he is compatible with the different operational systems, Windows, Mac, and Linux. The first thing you need to do is to create an account via mendeley.com. And then you just download Mendeley desktop for your system. Every time you want to work in Mendeley, you need to sign in with your email address and password. And now I'm going to do some demonstration on my Mendeley account. So this is how Mendeley desktop homepage looks like. The desktop follows a 3-column structure. The left-hand panel allows you to navigate through different filtering options for your library. When you click on different folders or groups listed here, a different list of paper will be returned in the main panel. The middle panel allows you to select individual references. Clicking on the reference listed here will display these document details in the right-hand panel. You can also select multiple papers to undertake the book actions, such as mass deletions or additions to folders. The right panel shows the details of your selected references. You can also use this panel to modify the details by clicking into the individual fields. So, first, before we start, we need to create a folder in which we will enter the document. We're just going to pick a Create Folder button from the left-hand panel, and I will name it Test for this purpose. So, here you can organize your folders. I organize my folder by year and in every year by month because I send my documents one in month to AGRIS team. So now we have an empty folder named Test. Before we start to entering documents, we need to customize the document details for every document type. To do this, we need to go to the Tools button on the top of the page and select Options. There we can see the document details. Those already marked fields are mandatory for every document type and they cannot be changed, but other can. So, what kind of information do we need for a book, for example? We don't need DOI number for book, but we do need ISBN number, language, and so on. For example, for a journal article, we need ISSN number, DOI number, editors, language, and so on. It's easy. Just check the right field. The same is with other document type. So now when we do that, we can enter the document. From my experience, there are 3 cases in entering documents depending on the type and the format of publication. First case is when you have a printed publication, book in your hand. It's common for scientific monographs, sometimes for conference proceedings, theses, and so on. In this case, we need to enter document manually. To do this, just need to click on Add button on left upper corner and select Add Entry Manually. One small window will open, and you need to fill fields with proper information about publications and then click Save. Now we are going to put something, for example, and click Save. So we have our first document in this folder named Test. Second case is when you have e-publication, but the whole publication is in one PDF file. So this is mostly about conference proceedings and some journals. Entering this kind of document is very similar with previous. We should add document manually and then select multiple papers to undertake bulk action. For example, I'm going to count how many articles we have here in this issue of this journal. So it will be, I don't know, 7 and I will just enter some. So I need to journal article and save. It will be empty document, and I will enter one more. So now I will select both of the document. Two documents selected. And now it's very convenient to enter informations that are the same for all papers from the same publications at once. So we just need to enter the journal name, for example, year, and so on, volume, I don't know, 7, issue 3, and other information that are the same for all articles. And when we do that, we just go article by article to fulfill all other fields that are only for one article. So title, authors, and other. The third case, it's personally my favorite, is when we have an e-publication. It's actually only about journals, when each article is in a separated PDF file. So I have one here. So it's the 4 PDF files from the one journal, and you just need to drag and drop them into the Mendeley. So it will be imported. So you can do it one by one, or you can do it with multiple papers at the same time. Some of the journals have already entered some metadata about each article, and we need to fill just missing fields. Sometimes it's just a few minor corrections, but always you need to create new keywords according to Agarok thesaurus. So we have some documents here in our folder. Let's see how we would fill in the information about them. So the first field to fill is the title field. For publication in 2 languages, you should enter a title in both languages. For example, this is so enter a title in the first language and then separate it with / enter a title in the second language. Second field is the author field. Enter the full name of the author in the inversion, and then in the brackets affiliation or ID number of authors if we have it. So for example, it will be So here, for example, this is how it looks like when author have ORC ID. I always put links in the brackets because it's simple for users that just to see in the AGRIS. So it's simple to copy and paste it to your browser, and you're on the ORCID account of the author. So it's very easy. So the next field is year field or pages. So you just enter the proper information about it. Tags field. I don't use this field. I always leave it blank, but it's very handy for searching documents in your own Mendeley account. So you can enter some words that will help you to find this document in your folders. Outer keywords. This field is the most significant and is the field who will take the most of your time. For the overall functioning of AGRIS system, it's very important to use keywords according to AGRIVOC thesaurus in every single document. I use AGRIVOC thesaurus online. It's how it looks. So to find some keywords according to AGRIVOC thesaurus, you need to read the author's keywords, title, abstracts, and sometimes the whole text, especially when it comes to multidisciplinary research. And then you should find appropriate AGRIVOC terms and just copy paste them into the keywords field. A great example is sunflower, because sunflower, it's very common keywords in Serbian journals, because we do lots of research on sunflowers, but we don't have sunflower as a AGRIVOC term. So what is the appropriate AGRIVOC term is Helianthus annus. It is what is the Latin name of the sunflower. So you just need to you just enter the author keywords in this search field, and you will find some alternatives or some match with the AGRIVOC thesaurus. So let me. So other fields just need to be filled with proper information about the editor, publisher, URL address, the domain number, ESSN number, and so on. So when we enter this all information about documents, we need to export them. It's quite simple. We just need to do right click on your mouse and then pick select all button. And then we do it again, right click on mouse, and then click on the export button. Now, so you should pick where you are going to save your folder, and you should enter, I don't know, here. So you should enter file name according to your registration in AGRIS. Mine is RS0. And choose type EndNote XML. So you save it, and wait till you can send it via email to AGRIS team, and it will be published in the next data release. So that is how I do. So that will be all for my side.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Is it clear enough, or do you have some question?
I hope so. Just before we go to the discussion part, let me just get back our presentation and say a last word about how to submit this data to AGRIS. Yes, here we are. Yes, that's it. As Marina already said, once you have the file, you can send the data simply by email. Please, if you use a zip file, that is okay, but we cannot work, unfortunately, with a raw folder. So please, if you need to compress the files, use a zip folder, or you can just send us the files, the XML files as they are. That is also okay. Another option to submit the data is to provide us with the OAI PMH harvesting link. Then we can actually harvest your repository and get the data ourselves. However, if you have new data, you should inform us so we can repeat this action from time to time. And yeah, once we have received the data, we will look at it. We will check whether the data is compliant to our eligibility requirements, and if it is related to the AGRIS topics. And then we will add it most probably to the upcoming AGRIS release, and you will be informed when this release is out and when you can find your data online. Yeah, if you want to contact us, if you have any questions, of course, now you can ask us in the discussion part, but after this webinar, or the people who are watching the recording, and you can always send a message to agris@fao.org. You can have a look as well at the AGRIS website, agris.fao.org, or you can also check the AIMS portal. You find the URL below the AGRIS website, that is aims.fao.org/agris-network, where you can find also information about the minimum requirements for metadata and eligible requirements and so on. We also have the AGRIS mailing list, and most of you, if you are already registered as data providers, are probably part of that list. We are using that list only to really publish or to really disseminate very important information just about AGRIS and maybe AgriVoc, but most of you will only receive information about the newest AGRIS release. So we do not allow any spam there, and we will not email you every day on that list. So it's highly recommended that people interested in becoming a data provider or who are already data providers are part of that list to stay informed. That's it for now, I think. Thank you very much for your attention. And if you have any questions, just use the chat box and we can go to the second part of this webinar. Thank you.